Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today is my 12th day in hotel quarantine. So tomorrow I'm just gonna be packing up and also doing my second COVID test to make sure that I'm negative before I will be released the day after tomorrow. So that's really exciting. But so I thought that today I would sit down and do a little bit of a summary of my experience here in hotel quarantine and just tell you guys a little bit about what it's like. I've been getting a ton of questions about so many things, so I thought that this would be very helpful and insightful and informative to anyone out there. There's also a lot of you that are planning on traveling back to Malaysia that have been asking me about specific things about how it is, so I thought that this video would just wrap it up in a neat little package for you guys to see. But before we go into the summary of my experience, let's just take a look at a couple of clips that I filmed during my time here. So, I just arrived at my quarantine hotel, which is the Grand Dorset. This is the bathroom. I requested for a bathtub because I am spoiled like that. That is me. Very long journey, very tired, and it is such a nice room. I am so spoiled to be able to quarantine in a space like this. And it's right across the street from my house, but I can't see it because it's like behind this building. But I have a crazy awesome view, and that is Holiday Villa. I used to like walk up right there and go into Holiday Villa to go swimming. It feels very weird being back here, I'll be honest, and looking at this from this point of view, knowing that I'm gonna stay here for a year or maybe more. In Malaysia, I mean, not in this hotel room. I'll check in again with you guys at some point during my stay. So many bags. So it's quarantine day 2 today for me, and I thought I would do an updated room tour for you guys and show you how I've unpacked and organized everything here. So starting over here at the bed, these are the only 2 penguin plushies I brought home with me. The rest are in storage. And let's head over here where I have my sneakers that I wore from the airport and on the plane, and a pair of workout shoes that I asked my family to send me. I just have some clothes here that I wore yesterday that I am not ready to throw in laundry yet. This huge suitcase that I didn't really unpack because it's a bunch of clothes that are in like vacuum bags, and I don't really want to, I don't need all of that stuff and all those clothes for the 2 weeks. So that's the one bag that I didn't really unpack. And over here we have this little food setup station. I have some snacks here. Most of these I requested for my dad to buy before I came back, and he packed it in that purple suitcase and got it sent to me when I arrived. And so yeah, I tried to go on the more Whole30 sugar-less route, and he actually got me quite a number of like gluten-free bars, but they still have a little bit of sugar in them. But it's still really exciting to have all this food sent to me. And I have a set of silverware and also a strainer for my matcha here that was brought for me. Milo, which I'm so excited to have. That's my mud water frother, milk frother that I use to make my mud water, and my matcha that I brought home from Boston. I also asked for some dishwashing soap and a sponge, which is super helpful in cleaning like the silverware and stuff. Then I have some cans of tuna, almond butter, and down here is the mini fridge. Also stocked full of stuff. This was some cheese that I brought home, an onigiri that I should probably eat because it's like a couple days old, coconut milk, some juices that I asked for. All of these were sent to me by my family, some apples, baby carrots, and these pears that they've been actually sending fruit with every meal, which is pretty nice. But I do have a lot of my own fruit. Then I have a little penknife here that I asked for, the box to my mud water, frother, some extra tea, coffee, and sugar that they sent, and just some random stuff. Onto the closet. I hung up a couple of clothes that I might want to wear that are a little bit nicer, but they still need to be ironed, or you know, because they're really wrinkly. Oh, this one's kind of okay. Hair dryer that I asked for because it's bigger and stronger, more powerful than the one provided. I threw my laundry up there in a plastic bag. Didn't really put anything in here, but there's a safe. And then in the bathroom over here, I have a bunch of my overtone hair coloring stuff that I want to use. Some pads, bath salt stuff, and these my sister got for me. My shampoo and hair mask and face wash, and they also provide a bath gel and a conditioning shampoo, but no separate conditioner. Here's my microfiber hair towel and my shower cap. I honestly really missed these type of shower heads because it's really not common in America, at least the places that I've stayed in and friends' houses that I've visited, to have the ones that like are like detachable that you can take down and like move around as you please. Usually it's just like a thing that comes out of the wall, so it's really nice to have this here. And then over here I have some of my face wash and bunch of like skincare stuff that I'm not going to go into detail because I'm going to do a skincare routine here video. Yes, I will do that pretty soon. Some hair stuff that I brought, and also my sister got that for me, and more skin stuff. I brought some travel towels with me. These are microfiber and they're pretty nice. So I actually just got off the phone with my sister. I was talking to her for about 2 hours, even though she's right across the street there in her room. But let's get back to the tour. I have 2 drawers here full of clothes. I have some shorts and workout stuff. Planning to work out at some point. Some cozy sweatpants, bottoms. Then moving on here, I have this suitcase I brought with me. It's my stuff suitcase that I brought from Boston, and it's all like my random stuff that's not clothes. And this was my clothes suitcase that is now just overflowing. And here I have the TV remote, and there's like a bunch of inputs here and 2 plugs, and I put my Switch stuff here. Thank you to my amazing friends who got me this gift before I left. It's so kind of them. But yeah, I have all my Switch stuff here. I haven't even used that HDMI cable yet. And here I have my underwear, socks, and here I have another drawer of like nicer-ish tops. And I have a thing of tissues, a room spray, and a hand sanitizer spray that I traveled with. And then moving on to this bedside area, there's this huge mirror. It's so nice. The phone, my hair scrunchie, just a bunch of like personal things here. Water bottle, this is the fanny pack I traveled with. And I have a bunch of like jewelry. This is like a Japanese aroma, instant 10-minute aroma thing. It's really nice. I tried it out yesterday. And then in here, I have just a bunch of random stuff again. Glasses, cases, plugs. Yeah. And then over here is my work stuff, where I have my ring lights, 2 boxes of ring lights, hard drive, cable stuff, mouse pad, and all my audio stuff. My portable speaker, headphones, iPad, and my recording equipment back there. What do I have in here? Oh, there's my t-shirts and like pajama shorts. And over here I have this really fluffy, nice travel blanket that I brought with me that I will be definitely talking about in another video. That video should be out by the time this video goes live. And then coming over here to my little workstation and makeup. My trash is full. I need to get that sorted out. My laptop, this little 5-year journal that I have, and Mr. Sprinkles, my penguin pencil case. my little makeup setup here. I have my lighted mirror plugged into this thing, and also my ring light. This is just a bunch of like basic-ish makeup that I would put on if I'm not like filming a video or anything special. And I have all my other makeup all the way down here. And I think that's it. This is the view. Once again, beautiful, beautiful room. I am so lucky to be able to be spending my quarantine in this place. So I hope those little clips were insightful to see how I organized my room for the 14 days and also how I would spend a day in my life in hotel quarantine. Hi! Editing Leanne here to say that as I was editing this video, I realized that if I included the day in the life in this video, it would just be way too long. So I decided to separate that out into a different video that will be coming to you guys right after this one, so stay tuned. But let's jump into the list of things that I have to talk about. I also asked you guys to send me a bunch of questions, anything that you guys were curious about, and actually a lot of things that you guys asked is in my list of things that I plan to talk about. But if I don't get to that question specifically, I will address it at the very end, so stay tuned and keep watching. First of all, I want to clear the air and say that yes, this process of hotel quarantining for 14 days is absolutely compulsory. You are not allowed to self-isolate at home at this current moment, although things may change in the future. And you do pay 100% out of pocket for the 13 nights that you spend in your hotel on top of your COVID test, but a little bit more on that later. I just wanted to start this off by sort of briefly mentioning the legal and immigration procedures that you need to take in order to fly and arrive back in Malaysia. As a Malaysian citizen, you are always allowed to come home. I can't say the same necessarily for foreign nationals and expats who have visas in Malaysia, but please refer the NADMA website, which I will link below for more information on that. So I was actually surprised that there was not as much paperwork as I expected. You really only need 2 documents. The first is the letter of undertaking that you can download from the NADMA website. Again, I'll link down below. And you just need to fill out this letter and you send it to the High Commissioner of whatever area and country you're in, and they are supposed to get back to you with a letter of authorization for permission to travel back to Malaysia. You also do need to download the MySejahtera app, which is used nationwide right now to scan and check in at establishments as well as inform citizens of any updates on COVID-19. But you do need to register at least 3 days before all your flight details and information before you fly. Also, don't forget to check the requirements and procedures needed for your specific airline that you're traveling with, as well as the transiting airport. I flied with Qatar Airways and transited through Doha, Qatar, and I was not required to present any kind of negative COVID test, but that might differ from different airlines. They did, however, check for my letter of undertaking and the letter from the High Commissioner, so you want to be prepared with that. So my arrival at the airport was actually pretty easy and much simpler a process than I thought it was going to be. There was a little bit of standing around and not being sure of what I was supposed to do, but eventually someone will come up to you and help you. Essentially, there was a lot of like standing in line and giving your passport and filling out information, and you also do need to take a COVID test there at the airport, which was actually really easy. I had done it once before in Boston, and the one I did at KLIA barely felt like anything compared to the one I did before. So the COVID test itself costed 150 ringgit, and payment was done right there at the airport after the test. You can pay by card or cash, I believe. And then moving on to the hotel part of things. So there's been a lot of changes in terms of the hotel quarantining part. I know friends who came in May, and there was definitely a time where the government was paying for the quarantining process for everyone who came in, but right now you have to pay completely out of pocket. When I was planning to make this trip back, there was still not an option yet to choose your hotel. You sort of just arrive there at the airport and they would load you all up onto a bus, and you wouldn't know which hotel you would be quarantining in until your bus arrived at the hotel. So that might be a little bit intimidating. Recently, a couple weeks before I left, they actually opened up the option of a premium package hotel. So there are about, I think, 8 to 10 hotels that fall under this premium package category, and so you can opt for one of these premium package hotels that you have to pay more for to stay in. All the different hotels have different prices and packages for different levels of suites and stuff. So personally, I paid for and chose Grand Dorset Subang, and if any of you know, it is actually right across the street from my house, as I've mentioned before. The reason why we opted for this was for the assurance of knowing where I was going to be placed, as well as because we were thinking of having stuff being sent to me during my time in quarantine, and there are some restrictions on travel right now, especially interstate. So the assurance of knowing that they wouldn't have any trouble trying to deliver things to me was one of the factors of why we decided to opt for this premium package. So I paid for the cheapest option of Grand Dorset, and that costed me 250 ringgit a night. If you don't go for premium package and just let them place you wherever, I believe it is 150 ringgit a night. There are definitely premium packages that go way more than what I paid, but mine was like sort of the bare minimum of the premium packages that were available. If you do want to opt for a premium package, you do need to make the booking with the hotel yourself personally, and my personal experience was great. I had communication with, I think, the assistant front desk manager through WhatsApp, and everything was taken care of very, very easily. When you opt for a premium package hotel, essentially you're also opting for a private transport from the airport straight to the hotel. And of course, you also have to pay for that. I paid 250 ringgit for that as well. And so the process at the airport was slightly different for me as opposed to people who didn't opt for premium package. If you don't opt for premium package, you sort of just sit there and wait with a bunch of people to be gathered into a bus. But I was taken a different route after doing the test and after going through all the payments. I was sort of escorted out of the airport by an agent who brought me to the driver who was going to take me to the hotel. Before I got in the car, they also disinfect your suitcases and all your stuff with a spray. So in terms of the hotel itself and the room that I'm in, it's a really nice hotel room, and it's really big and spacious, and honestly like more personal space than I have had in the past 2 months. And like I mentioned, we had arranged for some stuff to be sent to me in the hotel room. Because I was moving home from Boston, I sort of was in a predicament where I decided not to bring all of my daily essentials like skincare and shampoo and conditioner that I would need, but save room for stuff that I wanted to bring home from Boston. So there was a little bit of planning and preparation in advance to ask my sister and my dad to help me go and buy all the things that I would need and package it into a suitcase to be delivered to my hotel room before I arrived. That whole process was super easy too, with communication with the assistant front desk manager over WhatsApp. They managed that handoff really, really well. And when I arrived at the hotel, the suitcase was already here waiting for me, and they brought it up along with the suitcases that I brought from Boston, which was nice. So when I got into the hotel room, they gave me this pamphlet with a lot of information. It does state that you can order goods from outside, but there was a limitation on what you were allowed to order. You couldn't ask your family to deliver home-cooked foods, only dry prepackaged foods or whole fruits and vegetables. And things could only be delivered on Wednesday or Sunday after 5 p.m. So I did ask for a second delivery of items for my family, and they dropped it off on Sunday at like 2 p.m., but the hotel said that they were going to hold it till after 5 p.m. before they sent it to me, which is not a big deal. But they are also pretty strict on that. They did open up the box to check what was inside, and some things had to be taken home. So someone asked me about laundry and how I did my laundry and if there was a service. Grand Dorset specifically does provide a laundry service, but you do have to pay for it, and I did take a look at the sheet that they had in the hotel room, and everything seemed quite expensive, and I was like, it's fine, it's just 2 weeks. I actually brought a bar of laundry soap with me, a solid bar instead of powder or liquid, because it was just going to be more convenient to travel with. I honestly could have just asked for it from my family when they sent me that first package, but oh well. So I used that 1 bar of laundry soap to sort of just wash the essentials like my undergarments and some light t-shirts. I wasn't about to try and like wash a full like sweater or anything like that. So the stuff that came with me from the airport is still in this big laundry bag. Essentially the things that I decided not to wash I'm just gonna bring home and wash it then. And to be honest, it's not too bad. I've accumulated so far only 2 big laundry bags that I will be bringing home to wash. And there's actually also a retractable clothesline right outside the bathtub, so I can hang my clothes up and let it dry there. Someone asked me about a room cleaning service. That is not something that is done. Essentially, you are left alone for your 14 days, so you have to keep your room as clean as possible on your own. Honestly, it wasn't really hard to do that, I don't think. Every time after a meal, I just like wrap it back up in the plastic bag that it came and put the trash outside underneath the chair that they leave outside your door. And anytime that my trash bags, my trash cans start accumulating, I just tie that up and leave that outside too. They do a pretty good job of clearing the trash. It usually doesn't take more than a couple of hours for them to clear it. Sometimes it does sit overnight, but never more than a day, so I think it's pretty good. In terms of like general stuff that I needed, I did call the reception 3 times for different things throughout my stay, but it was always really efficient and easy to get the things that I needed. Essentially, I just needed to ask for more toilet paper, tissue paper, water. They only give you 3 bottles of water at the beginning of your quarantine, so I called for more and they gave me this 24 bottle box of 500 mils each, and it's kind of lasted me throughout. There was a couple times where I just also boiled water in the kettle and drank that, so there's not much problem in terms of drinking water, and you can always ask for more, I believe. And I also called for trash bags because there wasn't enough trash bags. But everything came really quickly within the day, and I didn't have any trouble with requesting any items. There were a couple of little icky things that I didn't realize when I first came into the room, but as you stay for a while, you start noticing like, oh, that's not so clean, or that's not really working very well. A couple of things include the AC. That was the first thing that I noticed. On the first day when I came in, I tried to lower the temperature to like much lower, like 15 or something, because I just came from freezing Boston. But even though like the setting that I was pressing it at, the numbers went down, even after waiting for 4 or 5 hours, the actual temperature of the room never went down, so it always just stayed at like 23. I did call reception to ask for help, and they sent a technician to come and check on it. He was in the room for a little while. I had my mask on during that time, and he took a look and didn't really do anything, I don't think. I wasn't really paying attention, but he told me it should be fine. It should cool down after a while. So I didn't really think about it and let him leave. It still didn't change, but as I just let time progress, I was just sort of okay with the temperature. It stayed somewhere between like 20 to 24 most of the time, and that was bearable. Another thing that I'm not used to, I think this is more of like a country thing than a hotel quarantine thing, is the fact that there are so many ants everywhere and you can't leave anything lying around for just like half an hour. I remember one time where I left like a small thing of fruits that they sent just out on the table opened, and I was working out for about I think 45 minutes to an hour, and then when I came back it was just covered in ants and I had to throw it away, and I had to just really be careful about leaving the tiniest crumb anywhere, because we have all these tiny little ants that don't really bother you, but when they come in swarms, it's like the worst thing ever. So I really needed to be careful and clean well in terms of that. Aside from that, the door handle in the bathroom was kind of broken. It like sort of came out, but that's not a big deal. And the couple of times that I needed to call reception, I noticed that the receiver was really stinky. Like someone had like spat on it, like it's just smelled of saliva, which was really not fun. I tried cleaning it down a couple of times with hand sanitizer, which has a lot of alcohol, but it still didn't really take the smell away. So every time I do need to call reception, I just like sort of hold it far away so I don't have to smell it. So that's kind of gross, but it's fine. And also in general, the floor, the carpet is just not as clean as I thought it would be, especially when I was working out. I started seeing like a lot of dust and a lot of like just random stuff, paper clips and stuff lying around, and hair. So it's not the most clean, but there's not much I could do about it. I just had to endure and like not be on the ground as much. So moving on to food, I know a lot of people have been asking me questions about how the food has been. Has it been okay? Can you eat it? And all that kind of stuff, because we're Malaysian and we want to know if our food is edible. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the food is quite meh. It's okay, it's edible. I just, number one, am not super comfortable with very carby food anymore. As some of you may know, I went through a Whole30 process where I cut out so many processed foods and just ate very lean meats and veggies. So coming back to Malaysia and eating like mostly rice for every meal was a little bit hard, and I knew that in advance before coming here. So I did ask in my first package for some food items that would help me eat comfortably. I asked for things like apples, baby carrots, almond butter, coconut milk, low sugar protein bars, and snacks and stuff like that. But I think the thing that was missing the most in terms of the meals were enough vegetable and fiber. I would always get this whole hunk of rice, a decent amount of meat. It's still quite little, but the vegetable was always just like this tiny little amount, and sometimes it was just like 2 pieces of brinjal, and that was a little bit hard for me. The other thing that was hard in terms of the food was the fact that it always came cold, so my tummy just really didn't sit very well with that. Eventually, in my second delivery, the reason why I asked for a second delivery of stuff was mostly because of food. I asked for things like avocados and cucumbers and cherry tomatoes, just more vegetables and healthy fats to fill me up. And I just sort of stopped eating the rice, or I just ate like a little handful of it. So it's okay as long as you're prepared for what it's going to be, you'll be fine. You are also allowed to order food delivery, but specifically at Grand Dorset, I don't know if it's different in terms of different hotels, but Grand Dorset, you are only allowed to order from these 10 specific fast food places, and there are places like McDonald's, Subway, Mary Brown's, Dunkin' Donuts. I don't remember all of them, but that's sort of the gist of it. And I just came back from Boston, and I was not about to eat fast food. That was really not what I wanted to eat. I just want to eat like good Malaysian food. So I never actually ordered any delivery food from outside. But there's also another option, which is room service, where you can order room service directly from Grand Dorset. And of course, it's going to be very, very expensive. But I did it, I think, about 3 times so far in the process. And it costed me up to like 20 ringgit each time. I ordered dim sum once. I ordered char kway teow once, and I also ordered watan ho, and it was so nice just to have warm food. So I think if you like space it out during your time, you can get like a nice comforting meal a couple of times and just endure the rest of the food the rest of the time. They actually did serve fruit and dessert pretty often. The desserts were always too sweet for me, but I always like took a nibble. One nice thing that Grand Dorset did do was also they gave a whole bag of muruku during Deepavali, which was a nice touch, I think. As an overall, the food was not the most enjoyable experience, but I'm not one to like complain and yell about it, but I think it was edible and I think it's bearable. Moving on to a couple of like little tips that I had. There were things that I was really grateful that I prepared for and brought with me / asked for, and there are a couple things that I wish I had during my stay to make it a little bit easier. So in terms of the things that were really useful to have, I asked my dad to pack a set of silverware, cutlery, metal ones, instead of using the plastic ones that they provide with every meal. Number one, it's just like so much use of plastic, which I really don't like. And number two, sometimes it would just be way easier to eat with metal silverware and cut meat that was really tough with metal instead of plastic and having it break. So I'm really glad that I asked for that. Another thing that I am so glad that I had was a set of dishwashing soap and a sponge that I asked for my family. Because of that silverware that I brought, it was nice to be able to wash it off and wash my mugs and just have dishwashing soap handy. Sometimes I even threw it down the toilet bowl to just give it a little bit of a clean, because 14 days without it being clean was kind of icky. I also did ask for a penknife and a cutting board, and that's mainly because of the foods that I was asking for. You know, the second delivery asked for things like cucumber and avocados and all these kinds of foods that it's easier and nicer to have a little small cutting board just to cut everything up. I did actually apply a tip I learned from another person's hotel quarantine video that I watched to try to heat up the food as much as possible, to use the electric kettle that they provide. You boil the water inside the kettle with the lid open, and you just set your Tupperware container plastic that they give you on top of the kettle so that it sort of steams it and heats it a little bit. I tried it out and it sort of worked a little bit, but I didn't have the patience to let it go for a really long time, so I sort of just ate the food still kind of cold. Other useful things that I had were the laundry soap, like I mentioned before, to be able to wash my clothes, and also the microfiber towels that I mentioned in my previous video. It was really nice to have the smaller ones to be able to clean and wipe the surfaces of my room down if it started to get a little bit icky and oily. Things I wish I had, it was not a big deal honestly, but I wish I had a bigger pair of scissors. I used the tiny grooming scissors that I used to trim my eyebrows to cut anything that I needed to cut open. It would have been nicer to have a bigger one handy, and also just more hangers because they only provided 5 hangers here. So I could only hang up a couple of things, but it's really not a big deal. I still had all my clothes sort of laid out in all the drawers, so I could access them pretty easily. So moving on to the last bit of this video, I have a couple of questions from you guys that I still want to answer. Some of these are not very specific to hotel quarantine, but I still wanted to answer them for you guys anyways. The first one was, what do I still have with me since leaving for the US? Other than my penguin plushies, which we all know I just bring my penguin plushies around everywhere. I didn't bring all of them back home with me though. I stored like quite a number of them. I did a little bit of thinking and I came back with an answer. One pair of glasses that I have, the black ones that maybe you've seen me wear before, I've had those since before leaving to Boston, but these are new. I just got them like as a second additional one to have, which is nice. A leather backpack that my dad got for me in Hungary like 6 or 7 years ago. It's such a durable, good, dinky little leather backpack. I actually featured it in an Instagram post a couple of months ago. It's really good and durable, and I'm really glad that I still have that with me. The third thing I could think of was just basically digital files. I am such a digital file hoarder, and I spent a bit of time during quarantine sort of going through and organizing my files and stuff. And I still have stuff from 2009, from when I was in primary school. It's honestly just so funny and amusing for me to go back and see all those pictures and old music that I wrote and like documents that I created when I was in high school for like clubs and societies and stuff. It just brought me down memory lane. The next question was, what am I planning to do over the 14 days to make it meaningful? This one was asked before quarantine started, and so reflecting on it, what I did during the 14 days to make it meaningful. I actually came up with a list of items before I left Boston on what I wanted to do when I was here, just so that I wouldn't be bored out of my mind. A lot of them were creative projects. Most of them were filming these YouTube videos. I had a list of 7 or 8 that I was planning to film, and I'm almost there. I just have one more left to film. I'm actually really glad and proud that I managed to stick to it and get through all of them. So I think if you have any creative projects and interests that you're trying to find time to do, I think being stuck in quarantine is a great time to do them. I also did a little bit of music and have some planning for music, so keep your eyes out for that. I started reaching out to a bunch of people who are in Malaysia and reconnect with them because, you know, I haven't seen a lot of you guys for a really long time, and I would like to meet up and catch up and just see where everyone is now. I also started working out, which is such a pain in the butt for me because I have not seriously worked out for about 2 years now. So that was really hard, but it's giving me a nice, great, positive like movement in my life. Also waking up early, that one is like really great. I mean, I have to attribute it to jet lag because I was still in Boston time, but I am waking up like at latest at 7:30 nowadays. Anywhere between 5:30 to 7:30 is when I wake up now, and it feels great to have the whole day for myself. And obviously, having come back, I am in the process of looking for a job, and I actually did an interview while I was in quarantine, and I'm still waiting to hear back, so hopefully that's gonna turn out well. And I've been looking into taking language classes, trying to do my research on where to do that, and also a couple more like work freelancer things like updating my resume, my LinkedIn, and I'm still in contact with my visa attorneys about the whole process about trying to go back to the US in the future. I also did try to give myself some relaxed time, and I ended up binge watching 3 seasons of the Netflix's Crown. It's about Queen Elizabeth II and the royal family around that time. I did not expect myself to fall down the rabbit hole of binging one show, and it's gotten a little bit mind-numbing. It's a really good show, but I don't think I really should be binging all of it at once, because then it just puts me in that world and not where I actually am. But I'm glad that I still make time to be able to watch some Netflix, and I have also been playing on my Switch. It's really exciting. I'm so glad that I have it. The next question that I have sort of still ties into the one that I just answered, was how did I not lose my mind? I don't know. It's actually, I'm pretty impressed, but I'll be honest that the past maybe like 2 days have been the hardest so far, because I'm starting to get kind of lethargic and bored by it. Even though I have all of these to-dos that I made, it's starting to get kind of samey, and the fact that I am not seeing people is making it extra hard. But connecting with people over Instagram and just like chatting with everyone has made it a lot easier to remember that I am not alone, and that's really great. I've still sort of tried to keep a routine, and I think that's really, really important. I eat my meals consistently when I'm supposed to eat them and not let my day just sort of disappear. I also get up and get ready as if I was about to go out. A lot of you have been saying things like, oh, why are you putting on makeup, or why are you getting dressed when no one's gonna see you and you're not gonna see anyone? But it helps me secure sort of a routine and makes me feel like I am starting my day now. I'm getting dressed and putting on makeup like I would any other day if I was living my life. So why not do it when I'm in quarantine to make myself feel like, okay, I'm gonna start doing work now. And I think that's so important also, just as a freelancer, speaking from experience of not having a set routine where I go to work at 10 a.m. and come home at 5 p.m. I sort of determine my own day-to-day routine and work day. So I sort of have to set very specific routines so that I don't just end up wasting all my time. And so the final and last question is kind of irrelevant, but thank you for asking it anyways. It's, what do you think about this pandemic season and how it affects people's lifestyle? That is like, I'm not a philosopher. I don't know that I can analyze the whole current pandemic and situation, but I thought that I would still share my thoughts. I think we all know just how much it's affected everyone globally, and one thing that really stood out to me in particular is how we just have to be a lot more grateful for what we have. Speaking from a position of privilege, I very much recognize the fact that me being able to pay for and stay in this hotel and quarantine here comfortably, I'm coming from a place of privilege to be able to do that. Not everyone is going to be able to come home and pay for a hotel for 14 days. And to really recognize the fact that while obviously like all of this is absolutely necessary, we need to quarantine, we need to stay home, we need to try our best to contain it as much as possible, we also have to recognize that it's affecting so many people who are underprivileged out there, who don't have the ability to just stay at home and not go to work, or work from home. So that's not even an option for a lot of people. So I think that our community just needs to be extra loving and kind and considerate of one another and what everyone is going through in this time. So to segue into a little pet project that I'm trying to start is trying to support local SMEs as much as possible, small businesses that are struggling, who don't have the capability and reach of social media to bring people into their businesses in this trying time. I'm talking about specifically those like older hawker stalls or bookstores and those tiny little shops that are maybe owned by the older generation. I'm trying to compile a list of those SMEs, especially in the Klang Valley, Kuala Lumpur, Subang Jaya area, and maybe to make like a clean, concise post on Instagram that is shareable between everyone in the community. So I urge you, if you have any ideas on those kinds of places, if you've been out, I obviously haven't been out to those places, and you've talked to those makcik or like uncles or aunties that like are telling you about how much their businesses are struggling because of RMCO or CMCO,
Please let me know what those businesses are. I would love to include them in my list to be shared with everyone so that we can all do our part to help support these businesses. So that concludes my hotel quarantine pandemic video. I hope you are all staying very safe and that this video was helpful, informative, and insightful into what it's like to go through the quarantine process. And please keep in mind that things are constantly changing and my experience is mine only, so take it with a grain of salt. Not all the hotels are going to be the same. My experience comes from Grand Dorset Subang specifically, and if you're watching this a month or 2 months down the road, some process may have changed and protocols may have changed. So please check the NADMA website for the latest updates, and I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!